Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tech Talks with Santosh. And today we have a really special guest, Dries, with us. And Dries works as a developer at Laravel. And we are going to talk more into how Laravel team works today. So thanks a lot, Dries, for joining us.
Thanks, Santosh, for having me. Glad to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to give you a small intro about Dries, he's an GitHub star, and he has been working with Laravel team. So, what I have heard that there are just two developers as part of Laravel team, and he's the one. So, over to you, Tess. I mean, you can just introduce about yourself. So, please go ahead.
I'm Dries. I'm from Antwerp, Belgium. And I've been a member at the Laravel team for, I think, like 2.5 years, a little bit more than that since 2018. And back in the day when I was first hired, Taylor hired me to mainly work on the open source repositories of Laravel to maintain the issues, keep an eye on the pull requests, and make sure that everything for our open source libraries and our main first party libraries goes well, and that bugs are resolved and people are helped and stuff like that. So that's my main role at Laravel. We also discuss about internally about new products and such, but my colleagues are mainly on our products at Laravel, like Forge, like Envoy, and such. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So as you said, we are going to talk a little bit about how the team actually works at Laravel. So first, let's start with how actually once you get the issues, right? So how you triage those issues.
Like every single day, I sort of try to work the same. I work 4 days in a week for Laravel, so not on Wednesdays, but on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And usually I start out with GitHub notifications. So that's like a big part of my daily job, like going through the notifications that came in for our open source repos and like tackling them one by one. On my YouTube channel, I have a video of my own, like how I do that specifically. So you can always check that out if you want. But what I mainly try to do is like for every single repo, I go through the issues, like look at which ones are the bugs, label them as bugs, which one are the feature requests, try to label them as enhancements, and then try to tackle as much of the low hanging fruit as possible. So the bugs that are easily solved. The ones that are a bit harder to solve, they'll move to the afternoon or to a later date, maybe if like somebody else can help us out with those as well. And then like usually that's in like during the mornings when I go through the notifications. And usually we also have like our own specific tasks which we work on. They could be new features for our libraries or specific projects which we work on. And in the afternoons, I usually work on those if time permits it. There's a special day on Tuesday. On Tuesday, I do our releases, our weekly releases of our software. People will probably see my tweets every Tuesday where I like announce the new versions of the libraries, and those are always done on a Tuesday, so people know that that's like the fixed schedule when they can expect new releases with bug fixes, with new features, and whatever got merged in that week in the meantime. That's like mostly like the schedule I work on. We also have like a specific workflow at Laravel, which comes in like a work cycle. And we used to do work cycles of 6 weeks since recently. And more recently, we switched over to a work cycle which starts at the beginning of each month and the end of each month. And within that work cycle, we have some specific tasks planned which we want to tackle. So, for example, I'm currently working on the new Cashier version 13 major release, and I'm planning to wrap that up this month. I'm almost nearly there, and then next month starts a new cycle with new tasks. And all of my colleagues also like have their specific tasks within that cycle. That's like in a nutshell at how I work each day for Laravel. Yeah.
I mean, how about the community support? So for triaging the issues, do you also get the support from community or anyone else who is helping you, or you are just all alone?
Yeah, definitely. Like I'm the main person at Laravel, like keeping an eye on the open source repositories. But of course, we have a very large community behind us as well, which are very helpful. We're very grateful for the community helping us out. So we have lots of eyes on the pull requests that are coming in, so people can respond to them, like give advice, give feedback to people sending in those pull requests, and also on issues like. I try to keep a short tab, like I refresh my notifications a lot during the day, so I'm like fairly ahead of when someone comes in, so I can give an answer very quickly. But there's also a lot of people watching our repos, so there's usually some specific people also per repository. That's also something that we're seeing. So like you, for example, have some people who are very involved with Passport. You have some people who are very involved with Cashier. So we have specific community members helping us out on the different projects. And those are very helpful. They take out quite a bit of work for us as well. Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah. So I just have another question from the chat we just had. How about release cycles? I mean, you said every Tuesday, so it's like weekly releases which you do?
Yeah, so for most of our open source repos, we have weekly release cycles, depending if we have new features or. Before I start saying that, we have a specific versioning scheme that we use. It's the most common versioning scheme used in open source landscape. I think it's called semantic versioning. And depending on new features or bug fixes, we do a minor release or patch release each week. And sometimes when there's a new major update for a library, we do a major release. So for example, I'm now working on the new Cashier version 13 release. So that's probably expected soon, depending how much testing time we'll need for the final release. For the framework, there's a sort of a different cycle for the main Laravel framework. We also do minor and patch releases depending on there's new features or not. But for the major release, which probably has breaking changes and larger new features, we do that every single year from now on. We used to do a major release every 6 months, but we sort of noticed that we weren't getting that much new features in the major versions anymore. The framework was sort of like maturing as a whole, so it wasn't really needed to do it every half year anymore. So we switched to a yearly cycle now. At the moment, Laravel 9, the next major release, is expected in September. So that's the next time we'll probably do a new major release. But for the libraries, it depends. Like we don't have a fixed yearly schedule or something. It depends if like we have enough new stuff in a major release, then it's probably wanted to do one. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. How about the feature request, right? So you said you have framework, Laravel framework, and then you have feature the libraries. So what is the, I mean, in case someone requests for a new feature, what is the process for both?
Okay, so it's again a little bit different between the framework and our open source libraries. For the framework, we have a dedicated repository for new ideas for the framework because obviously we have a large community and there's lots of people who have different kinds of ideas for the framework, which is great. We have had a lot of great ideas for the framework already, lots of great community pull requests that have been contributed. But because we want to keep a good overview of the bugs we still need to fix, our main issue tracker for the framework repository is dedicated only for bugs and not for support or for new features. So we have a different repository specifically for feature requests for the framework. That's called Laravel/ideas. And the issue tracker there, it's like It's not really monitored or anything dedicatedly, but we usually sometimes take a peek in there to see if there's like new, fresh, good ideas in there, which we can use for the next major version. Like if there's things which have been upvoted a lot, so we can sort through those issues to see if there's new things. And when that's done, we sometimes tackle them ourselves, but there's also a lot of pull requests being sent in by community members. It sometimes depends, like if we want to take on the burden of maintaining the things that people send in for ourselves, because every single line of code that goes into the framework, we of course have to maintain ourselves, and we don't always accept every single pull requests. We usually encourage, like if it's wanted, that people release packages, like different libraries which integrate with the framework for the specific feature that they request. But sometimes we also unfortunately have to decline some pull requests which like doesn't really, like in our vision, doesn't really like are wanted within the framework, or simply because we don't want to maintain the code ourselves. For the first party libraries, it's again a little bit different. So we do use the issue trackers for tracking feature requests there as well, because usually there's not like much feature requests going on for the first party libraries. All of our libraries are pretty stable already, so they have like lots of things in them already which make them pretty much feature complete. But I usually, when I have time to spare, like go through the different feature requests and try to implement them either myself or encourage people to send in a pull request for those as well, which happens a lot as well. So really thankful to the community for contributing there as well. Yeah.
So, do you have any RFCs in case, let's say, Laravel team decides to add any features? So, I mean, is there any RFC process, or it's just like, okay, we have decided and it's now we are implementing it? How is that?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. So we don't really have an RC process. We do encourage a lot to first post an issue if it's like for the Laravel framework specifically, to first post an issue on the IDs repo. So like other community members can pitch in and like discuss the ID first, because that usually leads to like other use cases as well, or improvements in how the original author wanted to design the pull request or the code around the feature. So that's something we definitely encourage also through the pull request templates that we have. But sometimes, like it of course happens a lot as well, that we get pull requests which don't have those issues at first, and those are fine as well, as long as they have like a very descriptive description about what's it about, why they need it, like how we should review the code. And also, like I said earlier, we have lots of people watching the framework repository as well. So we usually get a lot of community members who can share their opinions on a pull request, like say like, hey, you can do this a little bit better, or did you think about this a little thing? So that's nice for us that we have so much watchful eyes on the code as well, that might catch a few things which we might miss ourselves. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. How about community member? How they can get involved? So let's say someone wants to contribute to Laravel framework, or your first party frameworks which you have, or first party libraries which you have. So how they can get involved?
Yeah, well, luckily for us, we usually don't have too much tickets left on our issue trackers. We've been working very hard at getting them to zero. Like there's still a few tickets left on the different repositories, and like the best place you can go to is to the issue trackers of different libraries and see if there's anything that you might want to get involved with, that you want to tackle. Like see if there's an issue that you think like, okay, I can get in on this, or I can give some advice, or like how this can maybe be done. It's always helpful. And like if there's something specific you can fix, send in a pull request for us so to review. If you have a good idea for the framework, of course, like try to write an issue in the IDs repository. We don't closely monitor that repository ourselves, but we try to go through the repository now and then to see if there's anything interesting for us to pick up in the next major release or in the current major release cycle. Try to like ask around. Our Discord channel is a very good place to share ideas as well. There's a lot of people on our Discord as well. So if you have a good idea, post it there, like see if anyone wants to get involved with helping you out on working on a pull request. And that's a good place to get started as well. Yeah.
How about Stack Overflow? I'm sure you might be getting a lot of questions on Stack Overflow. So how is that managed?
We don't closely watch Stack Overflow ourselves. That's something we totally leave to the community. We only keep an eye on our issue trackers to mainly identify bugs and solve those. We don't actively provide support on our issue trackers. I sometimes try to help out people if they're stuck, but usually what I do is try to direct them to a support channel, which could be Stack Overflow or Discord or our Laravel Slack or our IRC channel, because there's just so much community members out there ready to help out, ready to answer questions. And if we had to do that all ourselves, because we're a very small team, if we had to do that all ourselves, we wouldn't have time anymore to work on our products or on our libraries itself. So it's really like if you have a problem, first try to ask on one of those channels before you come to the issue tracker, because like I think like in 95% of the time, like someone can already help you out with the issue you have. Yeah.
So how about team? I mean, you mentioned that this it's a small team. So how it is structured? So can you just tell us a little about it?
Definitely. So I have to count a little bit. Like I think we're like 1, 2, 3. I think we're like 7 people. So it's me, who mainly does the open source stuff. Then you have Taylor, who of course created the Laravel framework. Taylor is mainly involved in reviewing all of the pull requests that come in for our library. So he wants to keep a close eye on all of the code that goes into the library, so he knows like what changed, and when issues arise, he can have it in his mind fresh, so to know like what went wrong where. And he's also, of course, involved with our products. Like he usually talks to the different team members about the new features we're working on or the bugs we're trying to solve to help them out, trying to like get that done in a very good way. And he's also always like working on the next big thing at Laravel. Then we have Mohammed. Mohammed is from Egypt, and he is mainly involved with working on Vapor and Forge, and also like Spark, which is like a separate product we have for billing integration into your Laravel application. Then we have James. James is mainly working on Forge itself. He's done I think like everyone who's been using Forge has been seeing like the impact that James has made over the past 1.5 years, well, the past 2 years. Like Forge has like lifted to such a new level with all of the different things that James has implemented. It's been a really cool way to see how the product has grown under him. Then we have Nuno from Portugal. He's our team member that works on Vapor. Vapor is our like AWS integration for serverless Laravel applications. And also, like, Nuno has done a terrific job on Vapor. Like, he knows the product in and out. He's done such a great job at like investigating how all of the AWS stuff works, and like just like doing Vapor and getting it up to running in a very, very cool and great way. And we have a new team member since a couple of months, Claudio Decker. He's brought on as a front-end developer mainly, and he's helping us transition our products to the next level in terms of like JavaScript integration. So he's working on Vue.js a lot for Forge, amongst else. And he's just helping us out, like taking all of that to a next level. He's also been doing a very great job. Lastly, we have Mir from Malaysia. And Mior is the person who maintains Nova, which is also a separate product, standalone product. And it's sort of like a content management system that integrates very neatly into Laravel. And Mior has also been doing a great job. He's currently working on the next major release of Nova. And I'm not sure like when it will come out, but like he's been very busy with that as well. That's about it for the team. Yeah.
So I can see Nuno and Claudio both are in chat. So thanks for joining, both of you.
Hey
So
guys. Mhm.
yeah. So I just wanted to know, I mean, how about money part, right? So if I understand correctly, if Laravel is open source framework, so how does, I mean, it is making money and how it is surviving? So because of course there are a lot of large projects which are supported by large organization. I mean, Angular is Google, React is Facebook. So what about Laravel?
Definitely. So you're correct. Like Laravel is totally open source, and all of our first-party libraries are as well. They're just free out there for you to use. But besides those products, those libraries, we also have a couple of paid products. The ones I just mentioned. Forge is our main product, which is meant for server provisioning. So it provisions VPSs and servers with a standard setup of PHP, of whatever you need to get your Laravel application up and running. It's very tied in with Laravel as well. So we have all kinds of goodies there to make sure that your Laravel application is up and running on a VPS. We have Envoyer, which is our paid product for deployments. So it tackles deployments for applications where you have zero downtime. So it's seamlessly when you deploy your application. Then we have Vapor, which is our AWS integration I talked about earlier. It's for serverless applications, which need which have like a lot of traffic and are just like a bit like more high demanding than what a Forge provision server would provide. And we have two separate products as well, standalone, which you can buy a single time. Nova, which I talked about earlier, which is our CMS integration for Laravel. And we have Spark as well, which is our billing integration. And we, at the beginning of this year, I think we released a new version of Spark, and it now supports both Stripe and Paddle payment providers. So you can get up and running with one of those very easily. Yeah.
So are they like a subscription based model, or is it like a product which just Laravel team members work?
Forge, Envoyer, and Vapor are subscription-based models, so you pay a monthly or yearly fee. And Nova and Spark are standalone, so you pay a one-time fee for those. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk about the different projects. You mentioned there are several projects which we have in Laravel system. So you have your first party libraries and your Laravel framework. So can you just let us a little bit about them, what they do, and
Yeah. Do you want to do Forge mainly, or do you have a specific product in mind that you want to know more about?
I have seen your Twitter feed. So you mentioned something, I think Blade related, or what, Blade UI or
Oh,
something.
okay. Yeah, more about the open source stuff. Yeah,
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 yeah.
definitely. Like I'm working a lot on Blade related stuff myself. I have a separate project called Blade UI Kit myself, which is a
Mhm.
personal project. And Blade UI Kit is like a component-based library. So you probably, like, if you're doing a lot of JavaScript, you know that Vue and React are very component-based. And in Laravel, I don't know, I think it was 7, we introduced Blade components. So it's like sort of similar way of defining components in the Blade templating language that Laravel uses. And what I did is like build like a sort of like toolkit that ships with like standard components that you can use in your application yourself. It has like an avatar component that derives your avatar from a Twitter name or like a GitHub username. It has like form-based components to easily like scaffold a form into your application. like all sorts of different kind of components. I have been neglecting it a little bit over the past few months because I've been working on other stuff, but I'm hoping to like get working on a proper major release soon. Besides Blade UI Kit, I also have a library called Blade Icons. I've been working a lot on that lately. And Blade Icons is mainly a very easy way for you to get started with using SVG icons into your application. So instead of like pasting the entire SVG into your source code, you can very easily reference it as a component, as a Blade component, or as a directive. Just a very much nicer way of using those SVGs in your Laravel application. Yeah. Mm.
So Kapil had this question. I'm sure you may be getting this question a lot. So he says, please ask him, how do I shut up stupid people who say PHP is dead?
Well, yeah, I think like we get that a lot, like us PHP developers. My opinion about that is like, as long as you're making a living with PHP and you're like having fun writing PHP, PHP isn't that. As long as there's like one single person left standing that's doing PHP code, writing apps, and making a living, then PHP isn't that. And I for a fact know that there's a lot of people making money off PHP and writing great PHP applications. The PHP community is a great place to be in. Like I always love going to conferences, like meeting people, meeting new people, meeting old friends. It's definitely far away from that. Yeah.
So, how about you as a like open source project? Every open source project has some pain points. So, is there any pain points where community can help PHP family or PHP framework right now?
That's a very good question, actually. I recently saw an article about the bus factor of the PHP language itself. So at the moment, there's, of course, a couple of people working on PHP, the language itself. And at the moment, there's only 2 persons, I think, who are very directly involved with the language. So that's low. Of course, like if anything would have, God forbid, happens to one of those people, then we as a language would have quite a problem. I think the best way to help PHP is something that a company called JetBrains did. They hired Nikita. And Nikita is one of the persons I mentioned who was on those bus factors, and they entirely invested his paycheck into letting him work on the PHP language itself, which is, in my eyes, a great way of like contributing to the language as a company, while at the same time also having the benefit of having a dedicated core team member on your team. Like more like those kind of investments. I think like for smaller like developers who like aren't very fluent in like the language behind PHP itself, it's a bit hard to contribute, because I think like the RC process of PHP itself, like the way you have to contribute, is still like a little bit too difficult for newcomers to step into. But I think like if you're a company and really want to invest into PHP, the language itself, the best way is to do something like that JetBrains did. Of course, it's a big investment to have an entire paycheck for someone, but it doesn't have to be that large. Even like you can contribute in other ways, donate to the projects, or having like developers spend just a little bit of time to the language, or helping out other library authors as well. There's so many open source contributors out there on GitHub who could use some sponsorships as well to help them out keeping on maintaining their projects. So always try to keep an eye out on that if there's anyone out there who needs some help with keeping their project maintained. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So there are like millions of developers who are using PHP to make money. So I'm sure the people or the developers who are live right now, just go ahead and support someone who is already doing great job in the PHP community. GitHub sponsor
Exactly.
program is making it easy to actually go ahead and support your favorite developers. So please do that. I mean, if you're making
Yeah.
money, which is something free, actually open source is not free. Yeah, everyone knows that. Someone is actually
Exactly.
putting their time.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead and support
And
them.
yeah, and definitely try to look around as well for the people who aren't receiving that much sponsorships. There's already a lot of people like getting some sponsorships, like the more famous known people, but definitely also keep an eye out for those who are also doing a great job on their own libraries, but like still are struggling to find sponsors for their projects. Yeah.
Okay. Any particular project you want to give a shout out, Tess?
Yeah, there's one. I think he's not that much like known or anything, but it's called Danek, and he's the maintainer of the Imagic library, if I'm not mistaken. And like he's doing such a good job of maintaining that. It's like an extension for PHP for the Image Magic library, I think, to for image manipulation. And I don't think he gets enough credit for the work he does on that library. So shout out to Danik for that, and hope everything's going well with him. Yeah. Mhm.
That's great. Is it the same library which you mentioned in our Slack channel a few days ago?
Yeah, it's the same person. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Great. So please go ahead and support him in case you are using his project. So please do that. Yeah. So we are done with the questions. I mean, we don't have anything else to anything you want else you want to address.
Just really want to thank you for having me on. Thanks for doing this interview, taking the time for interviewing me. Grateful for that. Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for joining. And so anything else you want to promote on the channel? I mean,
I'm currently working on
anything?
a like semi secret project. I can't really talk about it too much. It's gonna be something related
Mhm.
to GitHub itself, which I'm hoping to show more. I was working on it right before the stream, so the only thing I can say, like, keep an eye on my Twitter, and I hope to have something out about it very soon. It's PHP related and related to GitHub, so yeah.
That's cool. So in case you want to follow Dries, his Twitter handle is behind in the background, so you can just go ahead and follow him and have an eye for whatever he is cooking next. So thanks a lot, Dries, for joining uh, 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 and speaking about the Laravel framework and how the team works. Apart from that, we have this another stream coming up on this Friday. We are going to talk about AWS and another great community member, Nader Debit, who will be joining us same time, 10 p.m. IST. And yeah, we'll see everyone there in case you're interested to learn more about AWS Amplify. And thanks again, Des, for joining us. And in case, just to know, in case someone has questions, what is the best place or best way to actually reach out to you?
Best place is Twitter. Like I keep a very
Ah,
close eye on my Twitter. So if you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter, and I'll try to reply there. Thanks. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot again. So thanks everyone for watching the stream. And feel free to actually go ahead and follow Dres. He's also on GitHub sponsor program. So if you can support him, please go ahead and do that. And yep, that's it for the day. So see you on Friday. See ya. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thanks for having me.